Let me just take one moment to thank all of my subscribers. Without all of you, I wouldn't have any inspiration to produce videos like this. This is my iPhone 16 Pro. I've had it now for over 6 months since release date, and I've taken it all over the place with me for photography. It has been excellent, and I have a whole video dedicated to iPhone 16 Pro photography in the description below if you are curious to know more about all of the things that the iPhone 16 can do specifically. And this is my Sony DSC-V3, which was my main camera from about 2007 to 2014. The Cybershot DSC-V3 was announced on August 30th, 2024, and later released in December of 2024. It was a prosumer level compact digital camera featuring a 7.2 megapixel sensor, a 4x optical zoom lens, and a 2.5-inch LCD screen. To give you an idea of the camera phones that were available in 2004, you could get the Nokia 7610 sporting a 1 megapixel camera, or a Samsung D500 with a whopping 1.3 megapixel sensor. This Sony camera then would have been a giant step up from the phone cameras of the day. But how does it hold up against a modern phone camera? That's what I wanted to find out when I took these two cameras on a day out to Richmond. Now let's go into comparing these two cameras head to head. The first thing I want to talk about is the speed of the camera, and by that I mean how quickly you can use it. Although there are many different ways to start the camera application on the iPhone, there is a dedicated button for you now which you can press once and you're instantly in the camera app. It can also remember the last settings that you had used if you enable that in the camera settings on the iPhone. The Sony camera also has a single button. It's a power button located on the top. Press once and the camera turns on. However, the iPhone camera turns on much quicker as it doesn't have a lens to extend. So if you're after a quick shot, the iPhone will get it quicker for you. There was also a lot of delay generally on the camera, such as after you take a photo, you have to wait a second or two for it to save before you can take another one. It takes even longer to save a raw photo. So much so that I didn't even bother to use it, as this would have been completely impractical. Now let's talk about the autofocus. Focusing on the camera requires the use of the two-stage shutter button, which is common across all cameras. The camera does show you what's in focus by drawing a green box around it, but it does take about a second to lock. With the iPhone, in comparison, you just point and take a picture and the phone does all the rest for you. Now this could be thought of as a good or a bad thing, because with the camera, you do feel like you are deliberately taking a picture, while on the iPhone, taking pictures could feel just like you're not putting any effort into it at all. Let's compare the detail and the resolution between these two cameras. So the Sony is a 7 megapixel camera and the iPhone is taking 12 megapixel photos with its telephoto camera. So you would expect the iPhone photos to be 2 times better, right? And actually, I'd say this is about correct. If we focus on the eyebrows, we can see about twice as much detail in the iPhone photo versus the Sony photos. And the telephoto camera is technically the worst camera on the iPhone 16 Pro, so things should just get better from here. So I also wanted to check out high resolution mode. Let's see what the full power of the 48 megapixel main iPhone camera is capable of. Here are 2 shots of the same scene taken within seconds of each other with both the Sony camera and the iPhone 16 Pro. Now we're comparing 7 megapixels versus 48 megapixels. So we should expect the iPhone photo to be 7 times as good as the camera photo. And indeed, if we zoom into the ice cream van, you can see way more detail with the iPhone photo. Now when we're talking about dynamic range, the best place to look for dynamic range performance is a photo with lots of bright and dark areas. Looking at these 2 photos, taken within moments of each other, the difference is immediately apparent in the highlights. The iPhone photo shows way more detail in the clouds than the camera photo. And I did no editing of either of these. These are straight out of the camera. You can also see the difference here in this photo of the boats. Now let's discuss the overall look of the photos. So this is a typical holiday photo one would take. Just look at how much better the iPhone photo looks in terms of colors and the pleasing blurring of the background. I think if you ask anybody, they will say that the iPhone photo is undeniably the better one. Here's another example of a typical holiday shot. It's just looking up some stairs, but look at the difference between the camera and the iPhone. The photo from the camera just looks plain and flat, whereas the iPhone makes a nice dreamy looking shot with its portrait mode activated. Remember, portrait mode isn't just for taking pictures of people. In fact, I tend to use it all the time. And lastly, we need to talk about convenience. You're always going to have your phone with you in your pocket for other things, and you may have heard the saying, the best camera is the one that you have with you. So as it's something you already carry, it takes up zero space and you don't have to worry about charging a separate device. However, if you are a prolific photographer and your phone is your main camera while using it for other things like navigation, reading restaurant reviews, and maybe even using it to pay on public transport, be aware of battery life. Every time I take my phone as my main camera, I also pack a power bank to make sure that I have enough juice to get through the day. This is the one I used, it's from Anker. Let me know if you would like a review of this down in the comments. In conclusion, if you already have a modern-ish smartphone, it's probably not a good idea to buy an older camera model like this to go traveling unless you have some special fetish for using old gear. If you think your phone isn't doing you justice, perhaps look at a more modern point and shoot like the Fuji X100 Mark VI, a Canon V1, or even a Sony RX100. Or if you're really into photography, maybe it's time to consider a mirrorless camera. These are much more expensive with a decent lens, but can potentially give you super fantastic results. I recently went to Athens with my Sony a7C Mark II and took photos with both this and my iPhone. I'll be doing a video of these results soon, so if you want to see how that turned out, be sure to like and subscribe. Otherwise, bye for now.